Hey guys, welcome back to the Tea Party Podcast, the podcast where you find new friends and new music. This week I'm joined by one of our most popular guests from the past, right here from little old Washington State, Cort Carpenter. And Cort, man, how have you been?
Hi, what's up, buddy? I've been good, man. Been busy and looking forward to a big 2020.
It sounds like you got a lot of stuff lined up, but before we get into 2020 too far, let's talk about your 2019. The last time that we talked to you, it was right before you went out to Watershed. You got to play that festival. I mean, what was that like, being kind of the hometown kid, if you will, out at the Next from Nashville stage?
Man, it was honestly a dream come true. I've always wanted to play out, up in the Gorge. Been out there for a lot of other concerts and whatnot, but to actually have it, my name on the roster or the lineup and say, hey, Cort's playing at the Gorge, that was really special for me. Probably one of my most special moments to date in my 8 or 9 year career. And just to be out there and on that Next from Nashville stage was pretty special.
Well, and then, so I was out there for Watershed. I saw probably, 8 or 9 different artists that weekend on that stage alone. And your crowd was the biggest crowd that I saw there all weekend. How cool was that for you to, not just be at that festival and get to fulfill that dream of playing at the Gorge, but then to see that reaction of people actually coming to watch you out there?
Man, it was crazy. We didn't know what to expect because we had the early in the morning slot, which is usually people are hungover from the night before and, tired, and it's hard to get people out to that slot from what I hear and from what we see at other festivals. So we didn't know what to expect, but, the hometown Washington State people came out, and, man, it was cool because after the show, we put on a great show, and then afterwards we said, hey, we'll be signing some autographs over here, and, man, the line went 80 yards back, which was pretty neat. So the whole experience, Ty, was pretty special.
Well, and I've seen quite a few people out there. I've been there, 4 or 5 years, and most of the time they'll step off to the side of the stage. There's a little barricade there that they can stand there and talk and take pictures with people. But you went a step above that. Like, you stood there for a second, and then the next artist came on, who I think was Lauren Jenkins, if I remember right. And you, most of the time, the artist will step away and go do whatever else they had to do. But no, you took the group and you're like, let's go outside of the tent and take pictures. Why is it so important for you to be able to make that connection with people? Because it's not something that every artist does.
Well, to me, I wouldn't be able to be doing what I'm doing without fans buying my music and fans getting excited to come see me. Because if that doesn't happen, you're not getting booked. And then if you're not getting booked, you're doing something else for your career. So I find it very, very important to hang around for the very last fan who would like to either get an autograph or a picture, because it's about them. And that's what I always tell my guys. Like, I don't care, the money, if you make good money on certain stuff or whatever, that's great. But the most fun I have is interacting with fans, hearing lives and whatnot. So that's the special part for me. And I took them outside the tent there because the next band started, and I wanted, I didn't want them to not have people paying attention to them. So I wanted to get out of there so they could continue and rock their set as well. So the whole thing was really cool, though.
Well, and it was so cool to see that many people kind of, be there and show up for the hometown kid. I mean, really, there was quite a few artists there. Austin Jenks was also there from Washington, but just wandering around and kind of talking to the crowd as I was doing, before you actually got up on stage, there was a lot of people that knew you not just from what they saw at Watershed, but knew you because they knew somebody that went to school with you or knew somebody that had heard
Sure.
of you because you were local. And that was kind of cool to see out there at a festival that you had national headliners.
Yeah, totally. And it's cool that you said that because, there's so many people from all over the Northwest that go to Watershed, and to have, that select crew come out and say, hell, maybe a lot of them see me in Nashville before, which is where we get a lot of our fans. And it's cool to see Pacific Northwest people come to Nashville. Then when we come home for shows like Watershed, they come out and support. So I actually saw, speaking of that, last week we had two gals that were saw us at Watershed, saw my sign here in Nashville on the street, and came in and saw us and said, "Hey, man, we saw you at Watershed." And they stayed for the whole 4 hours. So it was a good time.
See, that's awesome. And then not only were you up there, doing your thing, but you also debuted a song that came out later that month. It's called Dollar Store. And then between like that song and Koozie and Vegas, I feel like your catalog, or at least part of your catalog, is really set up to have fun and have a party and really kind of that festival atmosphere, at least up to this point.
Yeah, and thank you for noticing that. That's something that my songwriting crew and myself take into consideration. Just being an artist for the last 10 years that I have, I watch those things when I'm at other concerts, and what are people getting excited for? And sure, I got, like, for example, I got love songs coming out soon. I got old love songs, but to get people going, you got to keep it grooving, and you have to, keep that party atmosphere, especially at a festival, in my opinion, is because people want to drink, people want to scream, people want to dance. And that's why I have so many of those songs tailored into my set. And a lot of people have been complimenting our set, which is really nice. And that's kind of where we're at. We want to keep driving that home that, hey, Cort Carpenter's an unsigned artist, but he brings the damn party, and get people's attention that way.
Well, and you definitely did that at Watershed. I mean, you were throwing out koozies everywhere, and then you had some more afterwards that you signed. But you kind of debuted the song Dollar Store for everybody. It was their first time hearing it, and then at the end of August, you ended up releasing the song, and it got some pretty good radio play out across the country, and you were in a lot of those like Facebook battles, I guess. You actually beat some big name people, and I don't know if that's as much about the song. I mean, it was a good song, but you have such a quality fan base out there that's not just there because they like your music, but because they like you as a person. Was that kind of cool to be able to see that and not, actually see people go out and vote for your song and voice their opinion?
Yeah, and that's absolutely correct. We have a fan base that I've been building for, the time I've been doing this, 8 to 10 years. I don't even remember how many years it is, but and those people have stuck. A lot of those people have stuck behind me a long time. And just for example, we'll come back to what you asked, but for example, we had a person into our show last week or 2 days ago, and she said, "Oh, I saw you 7 years ago here in Nashville, and I came back to see you. I had to make a stop." So it's having fans like that really, get an artist like me seen, noticed, and the word spread around. So I can't be more grateful for all my fans.
Well, and you do a good job of connecting with people, not just putting out the music and commenting on posts on social media, but you've got a fan group on Facebook that you interact with regularly, and then you do these live videos on Instagram and Facebook. And my favorite thing is when your wife Kelly gets in there and starts kind of outing you to the world.
Yeah, she does that. And I like that though, because she usually is working or doing something, so she can't join. But lately, like you said, she's been getting in there and squeezing more fun information out of me that I just forget about or whatever. But it's good to see my wife Kelly in there interacting as well, because she's great with all the fans, and a lot of my fans follow her and like to get pictures with her because Kelly's awesome and she gets along with everyone. So it's definitely those live things are fun for the fans.
Well, and you've got some new stuff happening in 2020. The first one coming out shortly. It's a new song on Valentine's Day, and if you guys want to hear it, be sure to stick around for a little while, because Cort's actually letting us debut that song right here on the podcast, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But before we get into the new music, I have to talk to you about your family's holiday traditions, because I feel like your family has like the biggest unofficial residential Christmas tree on the West Coast.
Man, you got to see it to believe it. And I did have a few Christmas. First off, Christmas is huge with the Carpenters, and I know everyone loves Christmas Vacation, and they think, oh man, we're the Griswolds, but no, I'm pretty positive my family is the real life Griswolds because it's ridiculous. I love it because we're big Christmas people, but going back to that tree, we have like 2,200 lights on it, over 500 ornaments. It weighs over 1,000 pounds. So we have to have a 5-man crew come in and pulley it up. It's tied to the roof so it doesn't fall. It's drinking liters of water a day, gallons. It's nuts, man. It's really cool. And you have to see it to believe it, though. Pictures only do it so much justice.
Well, I can tell. And you kind of posted a picture about it before you really showed everybody what it looked like. And I showed my wife, and I was like, this looks like a massive Christmas tree inside their house, doesn't it? It's like, yeah, but there's no way it's that big. And then you kept posting about it. I'm like, no, it is. It's that big. How did that – is that something you guys have always done, or is that something that's a relatively new tradition?
That's something we've been doing, I'm pretty sure, since the 90s. It's been a tradition. We have a neighborhood Christmas party. My parents have groups of people come in. So, they're probably hosting 10 parties a year up there just because it's fun to get people in to see the sheer mass of the tree. And it's about 16, 17 feet tall. And I've seen some other ones around. People have sent me pictures of their tree, which is, 18, 19, but which they look fantastic. But this is a different kind of tree. It's full, it's wide, and it literally takes up 3/4 of the living room. So it's massive.
Well, and it definitely looks like it, and you guys decorate it, and you do it up well, but that's got to be such a pain to get rid of.
Yes, and I don't know if how many people saw my Instagram of my dad chainsawing it down, but it usually stays up for about a month and a half, and it finally dries out because they like to have it from November to middle of January, but eventually dries out, loses a little bit of its weight, but still my dad has to chainsaw it these days down so he can remove it with him and another guy. It's just, and the pine needles are absolutely crazy. There's millions of them, so it's wild.
It looks like a good time, and I'm kind of sad that I haven't gotten to see it in person because that looks like it's the Griswolds. I think you hit it spot on. Like, that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, and it's just there's so much that goes into it. Like you said, it's really neat to be a part of because I come home for Christmas, and I look forward to that time of season every year. And man, you walk in, and there's not just the tree though. There's decorations everywhere. My mom and dad are the Christmas gods, and my dad has the outdoor property just decorated to the nines, and it looks like one of those parks you go through, you drive your car through, and with your family. So you get that when you come in, and then you walk into the house, and then you get Christmas Wonderland again.
See, that's fantastic. So the other thing that you did last year is you actually went out and you started your own podcast. It's called Order in the Cort, CORT, which I think is hilarious. I love the play on words that you do there. But the podcast itself is actually fantastic to listen to. What was it? Was that just another opportunity to connect with your fans, or was it something that you'd been looking at doing for a while?
Yeah, so I have a Patreon page, and if you don't know what that is, or anyone doesn't know, it's like an exclusive VIP group. So you might want to. There's different tiers, $5 to $200 a month, or whatever you want to do. And if you get into that group, that's what we were originally going to release it to. But then we decided, we want to get this out to all of our friends and family, or friends around the country and the world. So a lot of the things that we mentioned in the podcast are Nashville sites, Nashville news, stuff that I'm doing. We're going to have songwriters in and whatnot. So we're just trying to get the word out about what's going on in here and what, different places people need to see while they're here. And it's fun. And I'll tell you, the podcast idea came from copying you, because you had the best podcast in the nation. So I gotta try to get something. Yeah, man.
I don't know that that's necessarily true, but I appreciate it.
Well, I think it's true.
Well, thank you. And so, you mentioned the Patreon thing, and I actually wanted to talk to you about that because that's not something that I see as many artists as I would expect doing, and it's something that's really unique, especially for an artist like yourself that's unsigned and has to do everything yourself. How important is it for you and what you're trying to do and getting your music out to the fans? How important is something like that to you as far as a revenue source to be able to release new songs, record new songs?
Man, it is. It's a game changer. Like you said, being unsigned, you have to fund everything yourself or through different, investors and that kind of stuff. And that it's not always easy. It's tough. And so this tier thing for the Patreon page, the VIP thing, say if you donate $5 a month, that $5 gets you content that no one's getting, or you're getting it first before anyone else. And then that $5 is going into my funding to record, to travel. So it's crucial. And since I've been doing it since last year, it's really, really been a game changer, like I mentioned. So anybody out there that wants to be a part of that, again, I offer different incentives for how much you donate a month. And how I look at it is, as if you're in Nashville watching us play, you're going to leave a $10 tip maybe throughout your four hours you're there, because there's no cover charge. So I always think in my mind, like, man, if we could just get these people to, tip $5, $10, that helps so much. And I can't even explain how much it helps, because it just adds up. So we're looking to expand that, and hopefully people from this podcast can check it out.
Well, and I don't think people understand really what the difference is in your journey versus somebody that's signed with a label, and the stuff that you have to do yourself or market yourself or set up shows yourself that somebody that has a label might not have to do quite as much. What is some of that stuff that kind of separates what you do versus what somebody that's signed might do?
Sure. I'm booking shows. I'm coordinating travel. I'm coordinating all the plans with the people the clubs and the venues that are bringing us in a lot of ways. We're having to coordinate our releases for our music releases, coordinate our tour bookings. There's so many things that go into just getting down to a weekend on the road that we're having to do ourselves, which I don't mind doing it, because I enjoy I like that kind of managerial side of it. However, the labels, if you're on a major label, which we're hoping we have a chance to be on someday, they're taking care of that for you. So the artist takes their rig down and they show up, they go relax, they go on stage, they play, they interact with fans, and bam, they're out of there. But instead, we're having to do everything that leads up to the show and after the show as well, which includes teardown, which is never fun after you're playing a set. So it's just, man, it's one thing after another. It is tough, but it's part of the road, I guess, before you get a bigger opportunity.
Well, and you talk, that's kind of the less glamorous side of everything, and I don't know that people understand that as much as maybe they could. When they start looking at what a Nashville-based artist or really any artist does. I mean, when you're up there on stage, that's obviously the most fun part of your job, but it takes hours and hours and hours of work off the stage to make that happen. And by going out and supporting things like the Patreon or downloading your music or even pre-saving it to a playlist that they have on Apple or Spotify, it really helps. Not just on the revenue side, but also on the exposure side, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Exposure side, you mentioned the pre-save and the pre-ad and the pre-order stuff. If you ever see me doing that out there, getting our songs out there, those numbers are given out there to people like Spotify and Apple Music, the ones who are making these playlists with upcoming artists and the big artists and whatnot. And that's how it could really change the game. If say we have 500 pre-saves on the first day or something, as an indie artist or whatever it is, the Spotify curator of the playlist might say, man, what is this? Who is this guy, and why are people saving the song? Let's put it on this playlist, which then goes out to hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of fans. So everything like that, everything I'm putting out there, I'm working it. I'm trying to do what I can for people to to hear me and spread the word. And it's tough, man. It's a lot of non-participating people, which, hey, you can't fault them. It's people are busy, but so you have to keep at that constantly, which is going back to your question, tough, because the major artists are automatically on those playlists, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And you and I have talked about this a little bit in the past. When I was in radio, I kind of saw that gatekeeper action happen, and it's really tough to get on a radio station if you don't have that label backing, or you don't have, these massive streams online.
Correct.
So that's really part of the reason that I started this podcast was to help guys like you get that exposure. And one of the cool things that you're letting me do here is we've got this new song that you've got coming out on Valentine's Day, February 14th, this coming Friday. And this one's different than the other songs that we've talked about. We talked about Let Me See Your Koozie and Vegas and Dollar Store, but this one is a true love song. It's called One Thing, and it's quite a bit different, like I said. Where did this come from? Was it something where you had put out Dollar Store and you wanted to change direction, or was it just a song that kind of came about and you were ready to release it?
Sure. So this, I released one in 2016, a love song like this called What Were We Drinking? And it had a lot of success on YouTube and whatnot. But I try to get out a love song at least once a year. I haven't for a while though, so I'm trying to get back on track here. But I love to party and love the party songs, but the most fun I have is when I can sit down and sing a love song as a performer. I don't know why that is, but I love a good love song. So this song was pitched to me by a songwriter in town, and I went through his catalog, and my wife usually listens with me to pick out some of our favorites to kind of see if anything works. And I actually passed on this one at first, but my wife's like, hey, check this song out. It's really good, and it kind of reminds me of our story meeting, my wife and I's story. And sure enough, I gave it a few more listens. I was like, man, I can't get this out of my head now. And that turned into recording the song One Thing. And it's a song, it's a love song that can relate to anyone who's ever been in love, who's in love now, who hopes to be in love, anything like that. I think it just connects with so many.
Well, and this song really reminds me of one of those Thomas Reddy type songs that people just take and then use at every wedding they're ever invited to ever. They suggest. So I really do think that you've got something kind of special in this. We'll let everybody take a listen to it.
Thank you.
It's debuting right here on the Tea Party Podcast. It's called One Thing by Cort Carpenter.
I never was the top of my class. If I was pushed, I was pushing back. I never was lucky much, especially when it came to loving. I can make a list a mile long of all the things I've done wrong. If I did one thing right, it was pulling you out on the dance floor, locking in with your eyes, spinning you around, watching sparks fly in the middle of a crowded room. All I see was you. If I did one thing right, baby, it was that night. You were the start till the end, from the moment that you walked in. Thinking now it's crazy how it turned around when you turned around. All it took was taking a chance and grabbing you by the hand. If I did one thing right, it was pulling you out on the dance floor, locking in with your eyes, spinning you around, watching sparks fly in the middle of a crowded room. All I could see was you. If I did one thing right, dance floor, locking in with your eyes, spinning you around, watching sparks fly. In the middle of a crowded room, all I could see was you. If I did one thing right, baby, it was that night. Baby, it was that
night. And that one was called One Thing by Cort Carpenter. And Cort, that one comes out on Valentine's Day. And like I said, I really think that you've got a something special with this one. You sent it to me last week and kind of gave me a sneak peek at it. And I've probably listened to this song 30 times over the last week.
I love it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean it's such a good song, and it gets caught in your head. And I think it's one that everybody out there is gonna want to go pre-save. I'll put a link in the description of this podcast, and then you can also check out Tea Party Podcast on Facebook, and we'll have a link there as well. But Cort, where can people find you online? Where do you post all your stuff out? What are your handles?
Instagram, Cort Carpenter Official. That's Instagram. Twitter is just at Cort Carpenter. Facebook, you can find me. I'll have a blue check by it. It's Cort C Carpenter if you're doing the actual address. And then I got a new TikTok account, which is slowly building. I'm not a big TikTok guy, but people said, hey, you got to get one. So trying that. So get on that one. And then Snapchat, Cort Carpenter. And YouTube, just type in my name. You can see all my videos and tour footage and music videos and fun stuff there. So, yeah, we're everywhere.
And it's super easy to find. And like always, we'll link all of that in the description of the podcast, as well as all over our social media as well. But you talked a little bit about how you came about this song. And before we get into our final four here, what is it like when you're going out there trying to find new music? Because you're not necessarily a big songwriter yourself. A lot of the times you work with some of the other people in Nashville to come up with the songs that you end up recording and putting out. What does that process look like from the outside when you approach somebody and you're like, hey, I really like your writing style. Let's get together and make something happen?
Well, good question. First off, this song, One Thing, is written by Arliss Albrighton, Chris Bano, and Brandon Chase. And I've actually worked with Arliss before. He's pitched me some songs when I first got to Nashville. There's in my catalog, one's called So Long, and one's called Crazy Like That. And he was a co-writer on those. So I've always wanted to write with Arliss. I haven't written with him yet. This is not a song I wrote, but it's one that, I couldn't turn down. So I always say the best song wins when it comes to what I'm going to record. And I'm glad you're liking it, Ty. That's awesome. And so getting back to the songwriter question is, it's just, in Nashville, you have a lot of people texting, hey, let's get a write in. Let's get a write in here. Hey, do you want to write? Let's write sometime, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't always work out. But, as an artist myself, I'm always looking for new angles and new people to work with new material. And that's how kind of this came about. I wrote Arliss and said, hey, man, do you have any songs that you're willing to see if I can record or that would fit me? And that's how he said, okay, hey, here's a Dropbox folder of them. And sure enough, there was 40 songs in it or more that I listened through. And this is the one that kind of stuck out to me.
See, and that's awesome. And I don't think people realize how small the songwriter family is, I guess, in Nashville. I mean, you were on the podcast back in June. It was like episode number 5. Then later on last year, we had Jess Lee on, and then you guys ended up getting together and writing a song after that, or writing together after that. And is that kind of, it feels like the songwriting group in Nashville's a lot tighter than what people expect in a city as big as Nashville. I mean, is that right?
Correct. Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know. The city's booming, obviously, but like you said, the songwriters themselves are in a community of their own. However, there are cliques, and I always tell people it's kind of like kind of like high school in a way, and that's what disappoints me, if anything, is if you want to write with certain people, they're not going to even give you the time of day because they've already got their buddies that they work with. However, there's a lot of indie artists that are like, hey, screw that, we're gonna write and let's try to get something out there that hits. So with the song One Thing, that's kind of the direction I went. It's like, hey, hopefully we can get this song to hit for these guys. But yeah, like you mentioned, Ty, it's a small group of people. It's a big group, but it's a small, if you know what I mean, that get together and are writing every single day.
Well, and that's just from the outside doing this. This is now episode 25. It's just kind of what I've noticed is that you might not know somebody today, but in 2 weeks they could be your best co-writer that you've ever had.
Excuse me. Absolutely. It's exactly like that. I wrote a couple times these past couple of weeks, and that's exactly what happened. It was, bam, I've never met you before. Man, this is a good song. Hey, let's write again. And that's kind of how it works.
Nice. Well, thank you for jumping on, man. We'll wrap it up here. You were the first person ever, I think, on the podcast to do the final 4 questions at the end. So now that you're back on here, we had to rewrite them. I've got 4 new questions here for you to end the show on, and we'll start with this one. If you could go on,
are they as fast as I can go, or I can't remember?
No, you could take your time. They're just random questions. So the first one is, if you can go on tour with anybody, alive or dead, who would it be?
Ooh, good question. We're gonna stick with alive right now. I really would, I think my music kind of relates a little bit to, I think I would fit good with Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney, or possibly Blake Shelton.
Yeah, actually, those are 3 solid picks. I like that. Okay, how about this one? Where were you and who were you with the first time you heard yourself on the radio, and what was that feeling like?
I was in Kelso, Washington, where I'm from, and I heard, man, I think I was with my parents at the time when it first came on the radio, the first time I released something. So I guess it would be at home, and my parents, who are definitely my biggest fans, and they're ride or die with me. They are. I think it was with them, and I'm pretty sure it was Koozie playing. Let Me See Your Koozie.
That's a good song to debut on the radio, I think. It's a good one to get people to start singing along. Okay, how about this? Who's your favorite artist that you've ever opened for?
Now, is this just favorite? Oh man, favorite of like we got to chat with them, or just favorite like guy I look up to?
Either one.
I gotta know that.
Either one.
All right, man. I really, we got to open for Blake before a long time ago in 15. But I would say we had a great time at Rock the South in Coleman, Alabama, opening for Sam Hunt. And one year it was Sam Hunt, the other year was Florida Georgia Line. We were early in the lineup on the main stage, but you gotta consider yourself opening for him. So I guess FGL or Sam Hunt, probably Sam Hunt though. I also got to talk to him backstage, and he was a cool guy. So
he seems like a very down to earth guy.
He totally is, and he's an ex-athlete like myself. He played college football, I believe, somewhere, I don't know where. But being there's a bond. It's weird. There's a bond when you get with another person who has been through collegiate athletics, Division I especially, and because it's that whole game is very tough itself. So there's just something about that where when you meet someone, especially like Sam, you're like, hey man, you can just tell he was an ex-athlete and he has been through it. So I don't know.
Okay, here we go. Last one. What is your favorite on-stage memory?
Oh man,
this one's tough.
Watershed was a lot of fun. People singing, Dollar Store this last summer, because it's an easy song to sing and learn instantly. It was cool to see that with the gorge in the background. However, that's probably my favorite. And the second one would be maybe at Rock the South in Alabama, there was like 40,000 people or something out there. It's just a wild festival, even for the early guys like myself. And that was a cool moment. The one funny moment, if you have time, is having a beer bottle thrown at my head in Nashville. So that was
really?
That was not so good. But
I feel like there's more to that story that you have to share.
Yeah, well, it was just something where we were playing, a cover set down at the stage, actually, on Broadway. This was back in 2014 or 15, and we were playing a Florida Georgia Line cover, and this girl was mad about it. I mean, it was just packed in there, hundreds of people, shoulder to shoulder. This girl got mad. She was drunk, and she, said something to me. I had my cowboy hat on back then when I wore that, and she was about 8 feet back, took the bottle, which was not empty. It was half full, and just hurled it at me because she was mad about the song selection. And it hit I ducked, it hit the brim of my hat and like bounced off, luckily. But it could have done some damage, and I'm not even exaggerating about that. It's something where it was dangerous. So I stopped the song. I said, stop. And I pointed this girl out and I said, security, remove her now, or something like that. And they ran in and took her out, and that was that. But
I feel like
I'll never forget that.
I feel like everybody can picture exactly what that girl was acting like and looked like, because we've all seen that type of person at a show somewhere. I don't know that we've seen them throw the beer bottle, but I think I know exactly the type of person you're talking about.
Oh yeah, the ones where this song's no good, I don't like it. It's just like, oh well, the other 500 people like it, so you're gonna have to wait 3 minutes.
Yeah. It's 3 minutes. It's not the end of your world. Well, Cort, man, thank you so much for jumping on here. Thanks for sharing the song with us. And everybody, go out there, pre-save One Thing on Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify. Go out and support Cort on his Patreon, and definitely follow along on social media, because I think there's some big things in store, man.
Thank you, man. It's always a pleasure being on with you. I love coming on, and follow Ty's advice. Go get that new song, One Thing. It's going to be one everyone needs to hear.
There you go, man. And for everybody out there listening, this has been another episode of the Tea Party Podcast, the podcast where you find new friends and new music, like our buddy here, Cort Carpenter.